Welcome back to Uncaged Leaders. I'm your hostess, Mariquita Solis, the Uncaged Heart Coach. My show is dedicated to the man who's ready to end the soul war and build a life of genuine courage and purpose. So today I'm thrilled to have as my guest survivor and best-selling author, Eugene Z. Bertrand. Eugene is a Master of Social Work candidate at Columbia University and a passionate advocate for trauma-informed mental health care. He's the best-selling author of Resilience, Breaking the Chains. With a foundation in history and education, he blends academic rigor with a heartfelt dedication to amplifying marginalized voices. His writing delves into the intersections of trauma, resilience, and healing, inviting readers to confront stigma and embrace vulnerability as a pathway to growth. Recognized for his work advancing trauma-informed care and mental health access, Eugene not only embodies resilience, but also empowers others to cultivate it within themselves. Through his advocacy, storytelling, and community engagement, he fosters awareness, empathy, and systemic change to help individuals and communities heal with courage and compassion. So, welcome, Eugene. I'm so glad to have you here today, and thank you for sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you so much, my friend, for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Well, I'm looking forward to this. So, let's get down to it. Um, you're a young man, right? How old are you?
So I just turned 23 2 days ago. So happy birthday to me. And this is a great way to celebrate my birthday.
Happy belated birthday. Yes. All
Thank
right.
you.
You've got a lot of wisdom at this young age, so amazing.
Thank you. Listen, I think that, age is just the number. And I think that life experience is just that, life experience. So I'm really happy to be here to see 23. And, I'm really excited for what the next 23 years look like.
Well, I'm excited too to see where you are in 20 years if I'm still around. So,
Will be.
yes, I will be.
Will be.
So let's get back to when you were a little boy. So
Yeah.
what were you taught a man should look like, and what did you have to lose to become that?
I think I was raised by my mom for the duration of my life. For a huge chunk. She was a single mom. So I was raised to become a conscientious member of society. But I think once my mom got married, becoming a man was something that I had to learn to become. And that was like, being tough. That was not showing emotion. And I recognized that very quickly I had to lose the sense of just being Eugene, just being who I am, right? And I think because I'm not really the type of person, the type of man that kind of shies away from talking about emotions, being vulnerable. And when, that changed in my life, I lost that. But I'm slowly reclaiming that back now that I'm 23. I'm going back to just those foundations and those teachings that my mom has always taught me to just be a conscientious member of society and really just wear my heart on my sleeve because that's where vulnerability kind of comes from.
Yeah, I love that. That there's that a lot for a lot of men, there's that integrity gap who they want to be or who they think themselves as, but then who they show up as is different. So,
100%, 100%. And I think with a lot of men, like I think we're so accustomed to not talking about our emotions. And I think that's really unfortunate. You know what I'm saying? I think that it doesn't always need to be like that. And I think that yeah, it's intergenerational. It can be intergenerational. Like a lot of it is taught through generations, like growing up watching, fathers or grandfathers who've never modeled emotional openness. Um, a lot of times that's repeated. And I'm really grateful that my mom taught me at a very young age that I don't need to be in that. I don't need to be in that box. And, I think that it's really important, again, to just be vulnerable and to demonstrate emotional openness, because it's incredibly important. There's nothing really wrong with it, despite what that societal stigma says.
Right, you're right. We're in a system that says that's oppressive to
Yeah,
men and women, right? To emotions and where emotions are in a box for men and women. So, I mean, we're both hurting here.
100%, 100%. And I think that a lot of people they don't recognize that. I think that and I think that another reason why a lot of people don't demonstrate those things or people don't talk about their feelings is because there's the fear of judgment, right? That's from like a collegiate level, like that's from peers, partners or them even themselves. And honestly, I feel like sometimes like admitting pain, you know, that'll make them seem weak. That's what society kind of teaches us. That'll make us seem weak or unstable or less dependable. And it doesn't always have to be that way. I think it's really up to us as change makers in this day and time to, encourage one another to be vulnerable and to just kind of name our emotions when they do come up. That's the most powerful thing you can do, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is. And it's very scary for a lot of people. But you're right. It takes power to be able to do that, to be able to speak your truth and live in integrity with who you are
Yeah.
instead of who this systemic cycle says who you are, right? And what you need to do to break out of that cycle that's oppressive. And it says you're never enough. There's no way to ever win in that cycle.
And that's the thing. I think with a lot of men, there's not always there's a lack of safe spaces. Many men, like I think, have never really been asked, how are you really feeling? I think socially, and this can go for men or women. Let me be very clear. A lot of people aren't, when people are talking to amongst each other, you just ask, oh, how you doing? How are you? But nobody really genuinely means it. And I think we have to just kind of, create the space to name that. But also just kind of be intentional with how we're asking people how they really are feeling. Because, while others don't have the language for what they're experiencing, and then they're feeling the pain, but they can't name it. But I think we really have to be very intentional. We have to make sure that we're intentional because you asking, how are you really feeling can change somebody's life.
You're right, because that shows you actually care and you're just not spitting off a script that we usually do. How are you? I'm fine. How are you? Fine. And then you go on to the next. And it's very bleak way of communicating.
I agree. And it's really unfortunate. And I just hope that, in this day and time, we can kind of encourage one another to be just a little bit more intentional in general, not even just through our social conversations, but just in general, just being intentional with what we do, where we spend our time. And I think that's a ripple effect. I think people are inspired by everybody, and even by our circles, we're inspired by our circles. And I think when you demonstrate intentionality through a ripple effect, that's it. I think people will model that, and that can just help to, you know, make the change that the world needs to see by modeling integrity and just intentionality.
Yes, intentional, healthy masculine behavior. Exactly, right? Instead of what the system says. So,
Exactly.
so when you were a young man, did you have anyone to share your feelings and be vulnerable with? As a teenager, you had your mother, it sounds like. Did you have anyone else?
Yeah, so it was very interesting because I did not get that through like a father figure. And I mean, I think there's also like the societal like misconception that if you don't grow up with a father figure, you're going to be less of a man, but that's not true because I'm a whole man and that doesn't take away from my masculinity, right? I had uncles, I have mentors till this day that I still kind of look to for some support. Um, and just I have a really big family, so I just relied a lot on my family again, like mentors. I was involved in the Boys and Girls Club, so shout out Chris. I had a really great mentor, Chris, that saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And I think sometimes that's what you need. You need people to kind of see things within you that you don't really see in yourself. in order for you to kind of sometimes take that step, you know?
Yes, they're holding that integrity for you. Like, I see this in you. You might not see it, but
Exactly.
I'm standing here and standing for you. I see it.
Exactly. Exactly. Absolutely. I think having somebody openly acknowledge that to me changed my life, you know?
I was just reading about that last night, about how,
Yeah.
the influence that people have on men. I mean, and it can flip the other way so quickly when someone puts you down. I mean, it can be devastating.
100%. And I think that helps to kind of contribute to the conversation about seeking support, seeking help. It has to be from that intrinsic motivation. You have to have that intrinsic motivation to say, you know, I want to do this. Like, this is what would be best for me. And while everybody has their own journey, I think we have to also just kind of acknowledge people might not be ready to take that step. The only thing that we can kind of do is just encourage them to do that and honor them on whatever journey that they're on, you know?
Yes, you're right. You can't force someone to move faster than they're ready. And yes, and we don't want to rescue and drag people along, right? It's up to them when they're ready, and that's
Exactly.
what was so important about what you were saying, right? Having someone supporting you. I'm here for you, and I'm with you on your journey.
100%. Like, I think a lot of times the men feel like they have to be a lone wolf and they have to wear like that Superman suit, and you don't. You can confide in your friends, you can confide in your partner, you can confide in whomever fills up your bucket and allow people to really just kind of pour into you and say, I'm here for you. I see this in you. And that can be so transformative. Like when I was an undergrad, I had a great mentor. He was another Black man. He's still a great mentor to me till this day. And he saw something in me before I even saw it in myself. Like, and I think that's in part why I was able to say, you know what? He finished his thesis to obtain his educational doctorate. I can write this book. He is in a very great administrative position. I can apply to this Ivy League institution and do well. Sometimes you have to see it and be inspired and allow yourself to be inspired to complete what you feel like you want to complete in your life. You know, it's you versus you. I tell my clients that all the time. It's you versus you all the time.
Yes, yes, very, very insightful. You're not competing against anyone else.
Yeah,
The world wants you to think that, but
exactly.
that's not the way it is. It's
It's
about
not.
striving to be better.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the thing. I think we kind of put ourselves up to the next person, and we have to get out of that because we're so much better together than we are apart. And to be very, very, very clear, like this is a 23-year-old, yes, but I'm a 23-year-old who's lived, a certain life. And I'm not perfect. I've never claimed to be, but the only thing I've ever claimed to do was just to try my best and have integrity. And I just hope and pray that that encourages other people to do the same thing. Because again, it brings me back to that ripple effect, you know?
Yeah, and your book is talking about that integrity
Mhm.
and resilience. Tell us about your book and how was that born?
Yeah. So resilience breaking the chains. It was born from me surviving a domestic violence incident. And I've always been an advocate for domestic violence. And survivors of domestic violence and helping people understand the complexities through that and helping people talk a lot about their stories when they feel ready to do so. And again, that brings me back to that point of, meeting people where they're at. And when that situation happened to me, I was like, you know what? Let me take care of myself. Let me do some therapy. I've always been in therapy. I love therapy. I think it's so important to be in therapy. It doesn't always have to be a bad thing. It could be super transformative as it was for me. And so I went into therapy. I was talking to my friends and I was like, bro, like this really just happened to me. And when I heard my friends say, like, Eugene, like this is something that has happened to me too, I was like, oh my God, but I've never said it out loud. that's when I understood that healing isn't just personal, but it's contagious. It has that ripple effect. And when one person speaks, it gives others permission to breathe again. So I say all that to say that instead of allowing my experience of me almost losing my life kind of um define me, I I took time with myself. And I said, you know what? I want to write something in order for me to kind of get through this. And that is how my book was born. And my book really just helps to kind of combat that societal stigma and that just societal um, stereotype that men don't have to talk about their feelings and men are weak, X, Y, and Z. If they do, if men are vulnerable, they're soft. And it's really talking about how you can go through an adversity and you can come out with the story of resilience and what that messy path towards healing looks like in the face of domestic violence from a male survivor's perspective.
Yes, and you flipped it now. You broke that cycle because so many people that are doing, I mean, that are perpetrators and hurting others through domestic violence, they're caught in the cycle too, because that's the only way they know how to express themselves, or one of the only ways it's allowed. And it's sad to think that being tough and repressing other people is part of the system. As a man, we
Yeah,
teach that. I mean, look at that. I mean, what a real man is someone who's got control and power and all these qualities that are hurting others and they're not connected to the heart. I was even talking to some of my friends and about their daughter's dating experiences and the boyfriends and like, well, what's her boyfriend like? Oh, well, he's wonderful guy, very sweet, got good
mhm.
grades, and great on the track team. But what about the essential qualities? I've
Right,
dated, at my own experiences as a young girl, I dated boys that had wonderful GPAs,
right.
right? And they were
Right.
very charismatic. But what happened? I got cheated on over and over. Was that something, that it's like we're not looking at the real values of men, boys, and men and boys. We're not. We're looking at the, these external values.
Yeah, and I think we can get so caught up with the physical that we kind of forget that the real connection and that what might be able to kind of hold you close to somebody is the emotional. And I think the one thing that I also want to mention is that for a lot of men that are, survivors or perpetrators of domestic violence, it's not talked about enough how important it is to regulate emotions as men. And I think that I want to mention that regulating emotions as men, it starts with unlearning the idea that you're not supposed to feel them, right? So, in my opinion, I'm of the belief that strength, it's not about shutting down, rather it's about like staying present with what's real and choosing how to respond instead of react. And I think you can start that by doing like five things, a few things. Like you can first name it. Like you can say, I'm angry, Eugene, I'm angry, I'm hurt, or I'm overwhelmed, because that will allow your brain to like process it instead of allowing it to control you. You can breathe before like reacting, right? Like because a few slow breaths and just a few deep breaths can help to just like lower your heart rate and provide you with the space to really think. You can move your body, exercise, do whatever, walk, yoga, push-ups, talk about it, number four, right? Find a safe person, whoever that might be, and then just reflect rather than like repressing and doing what society is telling us to do. And again, I think as men, we really have to encourage one another to do something as simple as regulating emotions because it doesn't make you less of a man, but it makes you a grounded one. And I think that's something that we have to kind of encourage, especially when we're talking about domestic violence. A lot of times, society, it doesn't allow men to feel their emotions. And when you do, you're victimized. And I think that a lot of times when men are dealing with trauma or emotions like sadness or anger, it comes from not being able to have the space or the capacity to regulate their emotions and feel. you know?
Yes, because either you're going to be able to regulate your emotions or you're going to be controlled by your
Yeah.
emotions. And how scary that is to not be able to control them. I mean, that's what's ended up many friends that I know in prison because
Yeah.
of that. And that's not their fault. It's because they never learned or they what they were taught and what we're teaching our little boys in society is you have to stop feeling. And even at 3 and 4 years old, they've learned that I have to disconnect from my own feelings and from other people. That
Yeah.
early, they know it. And it's frightening that we're doing that to these tiny little boys. And of course, that's going to come out. And we all pay the price for these wounded
Right.
children.
100%. Like, I'm 23. I have a brother that's 4. My baby brother, he's 4. And I've always really, and part, I dedicated my book to him because, and I'll get back to my earlier point, because I wanted to show him that whatever life path you decide to take, if it makes you happy, I want to show you that there's nothing that you can't do. In a world that tells you how much you can't do, I want to be able to be the demonstration for you to see that if you put your mind to something, you can do it. And I really try to teach my little brother emotional that it's okay to regulate your emotions and it's okay to feel your emotions. It's about what your outlet is, right? I think that at 4, he's still trying to figure out life. But in my opinion, I feel like if I'm able to kind of show him what that looks like and provide him with some examples and just allow him the space to feel his emotions when he's feeling them, but then come back and say, okay, buddy, what did that feel like for you? And how can I better help you? Having him engage in that dialogue will help to reframe that mindset and just combat what society has been telling our young boys, you know?
Right. And you're modeling it. Not only are
Yeah,
you speaking it, but you're also modeling it. And that is so important that you are showing him that speaking your emotions and feeling with emotions is courageous. It's not what society says. And this is
yeah,
how do we have relationships with other people at an authentic level if we don't know how to be vulnerable? Because vulnerability is what connects people.
I agree. Vulnerability is honestly, in my opinion, people's strongest superpower. When you're able to be vulnerable, that can change somebody's life. Like, I don't think that I would have been able to share my story 4 years ago, but I recognized that when I was vulnerable with my guy friends, I was like, yo, like, this really did just happen to me. And I almost died. And for them to, like, just the transformative power of them telling me, Eugene, like, this happened to me too. Them being vulnerable with me encouraged me to be vulnerable with my story. Me being vulnerable with my story allowed me the opportunity to sit with my emotions, sit with myself, and then write a book that my only goal would be to just encourage other people to do the same through that piece of literature, being vulnerable.
Right. That's a
Yeah.
great starting point, vulnerability and feeling. So, and then resilience, right? Resilience can mean many things. And so, how is that your definition of resilience changed from the time you started writing to where you are now?
Yeah. So I feel like at first, to me, resilience meant endurance. Like you're just kind of surviving in the resilience. But now I kind of think about resilience as like a sense of transformation and transformative. Like I recognize that resilience is not just about bouncing back to who you were before whatever you were enduring. Rather, resilience is about becoming who you are and becoming who you were always meant to be through the pain. And I think when we talk about resilience, we always talk about the bounce back, but we don't talk about the transformation of that. So yeah, that's what I would say about resilience. In my opinion, it's not always about the bounce back, but it's about sitting with it, holding space with yourself, and, you know, becoming who you were always meant to be through the pain that you've experienced or whatever the situation may be.
So a growth process
Yeah.
and always growing, yeah. So that's wonderful. You're not just bouncing back and staying there. You're moving forward. You're learning and moving forward. And that's what's so one thing that I learned that really changed my life speaking about growth is when I learned that not to use the word failure, but this is my, this is my weakness. I don't say that. I
Yeah.
say this is my area of growth. And when I
Yeah,
shifted that, I was like, wow, this is so, I don't have to be ashamed anymore because we all have areas of growth.
100%. I agree with you. I tend to think about when I think about mistakes, I think about what's the lesson? What's the lesson that I can learn? Again, that brings me back to the you versus you analogy. It's it's Eugene versus Eugene a week ago. If I was in the situation, which I most likely was a year ago or a week ago or 2 days ago, what did I do in that situation that I can kind of grow from? Because if I'm able, if you're able, if we're all able to kind of grow and set small goals for ourselves, we can be the best person that we can be. And then we won't have just so much societal pressure on ourselves that we end up having, if we just focus on just trying to be the best version of ourselves and thinking about situations through a growth mindset.
Yes, that's the shift. And
Yeah.
it's wonderful that at such a young age have already realized it. So
Thank you.
yeah, and being at a young age, so you've experienced this intergenerational trauma. So talk about breaking the chains of silence. What does that look like in families and communities like yours? What are the steps to
Yeah.
that?
I think it's hard because I think it looks like uncomfortable situations, uncomfortable conversations around the dinner table. Like I think it's fathers telling sons like I love you when they never hear it themselves. It's therapy, storytelling, coexisting. And I think that breaking the chain starts when silence becomes like a testimony in a sense. I think that intergenerationally, as a Black man, we're not, we don't do those things. We don't do them because it's demonstrated that we shouldn't. And I think in order to break those chains, we have to recognize that it's not working. It's not working. And we can demonstrate tough love in a different way. We can demonstrate tough love by saying, I love you when you've never heard it yourself. You can demonstrate tough love by encouraging your child and your family to have difficult conversations, knowing that it's a topic that might be hard. It's talking about topics that aren't the most comfortable, but it's really, again, being vulnerable. And it's really creating an emphasis on the fact that you don't have to be where you come from. You can be so much better than that.
Yes, you can. And exploring all your feelings. I mean, what a sense of freedom when you actually feel, because when you suppress feelings, you don't just suppress certain feelings. You're
You're
suppressing
right.
the hurt, but you're also suppressing the joy. So
Yeah,
you're this, I mean, where you could be,
draining.
right? Instead, you're at this
Draining.
flat level.
100%. And it's incredibly draining because a lot of people don't like recognize that, like what you just said. You're suppressing all of your feelings. Like you're not there to kind of celebrate the small wins because you're so focused on just suppression and compartmentalization. And it doesn't have to be like that. I think if that's a trauma response, it makes sense. I think that's just how our brain kind of responds to certain things sometimes by shutting down, compartmentalizing, and just kind of suppressing emotions. But, I think when you have a better understanding of yourself, it's transformative. But I think that's really, it also kind of goes to share how important it is to spend time with yourself, to figure out what works best for you, because what works best for me might not work best for you.
Yeah. Definitely, every person is different. And what you just said reminded me of the little boys that are so innocent and pure, and how hard it is for them when they learn I have to shut down this, and then they're using all that energy to try to repress who they really are. And you said draining, and for these little boys to have to put that mask on because they can't be who they are. And I didn't really think about it, but even for me as a woman trying to fit into society's um, standards was repressive for me. I feel so free now that I don't have to fake it anymore, and I can get
Right,
up, go outside, and be whoever I want. I'm not trying to impress anyone. I am who I am, and
right,
that's it. If you don't like me, that's fine, but I don't have to carry that heavy weight of trying to conform, with perfect nails and perfect hair and perfect
right.
everything. I mean, it's just such an emotional relief.
It is. And I think for me, that came from living in domestic violence for such a long time. And like, I think for myself, being able to walk around for Domestic Violence Awareness Month and every single day of my life when the topic comes up, and encouraging other people when that topic comes up, saying it's okay. You've survived something and it's okay. I'm okay to say that I'm a survivor of domestic violence. I'm okay to say that. And I think in the same sentence, it's also important for me to recognize, the power of healing and the power of whatever your truth is, right? Like being a survivor of domestic violence, a lot of people don't talk about the fact that men also experience it as well. And, being a survivor and being an advocate for it now allows me the opportunity to just kind of encourage other people to talk about that and just educate themselves. Because I'm going to be very honest. I was scared to talk about my experience for such a long time because I felt like I would be judged or I'd be looked upon in such a negative way. And at some point, I was just like, I can't do this anymore. And I'm going to speak out about my experience because I hope it helps people, heal from theirs.
Right. And it does, because when we realize we're all going through the same thing, that is so freeing that, I'm
Yeah.
not the only one going through this. I'm not the only one struggling. And that's
Yeah.
I mean, that's the light that
Yeah,
saves someone when we use
I
our voice.
agree.
When we're courageous, like you are with your book and sharing and speaking and being a mentor for for those and your little brother, saying, here I am, I'm the model, right? And that's amazing because my gosh, wouldn't it have been nice if we had had that as we were little children?
Exactly. And I think I oftentimes think about that. I wish Actually, let me retract that. I don't wish. I'm grateful for the man that my mother has raised me to be because I've seen what resilience has looked like from when I was a baby, right? And regardless of what she endured in her life, regardless of what I've endured in my life, I know that I can get through it because that was modeled to me. So I oftentimes think about that when I'm speaking at whatever speaking engagement or I'm mentoring whomever or I'm having conversations with my little brother and I'm just, modeling whatever behavior. I think I, it's really important to kind of see inspiration to allow yourself to be who you want to be. Sometimes you have to see it to be it.
Yes, definitely, right? You have a very optimistic outlook. So, and it's wonderful that your mother brought you up like that. She brought you up as a fighter.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I had to watch her fight and just become the person that she is today. And I'm really grateful for that experience because it really allowed me the opportunity to see resilience in that light. So I have to give part of who I am today to my mom because no matter what happens, she is able to take care of herself emotionally. And I think that's the best thing that you can do for yourself, taking care of yourself emotionally.
Yes, it definitely, we have to take care of ourselves emotionally. And so let me ask you, talking about that, what role does forgiveness play in your story towards yourself, others, or in the past?
Yeah, good question. I think that forgiveness, I recognize that a lot of times when people think about forgiveness, they think about a single act or a single like scenario where you're forgiving somebody, but it's a daily decision, in my opinion, to stop letting my past dictate my worth, right? I didn't forgive to excuse. I didn't forgive to excuse. Really, I forgave to release. And some days that forgiveness is for others, but most days it's for myself. And I think that as a survivor of domestic violence, I had to forgive that individual because it would really be holding me back in my journey. I had to sit with it for a minute before I wrote my book because I had to really forgive them because that's a hard thing to do, especially at the age that I was at that time. But again, I had to recognize that it's a daily decision to forgive. It doesn't always mean to accept the behavior, or it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be an excuse. But I see forgiveness as a release for myself.
Yeah, I would say that forgiveness would be a very important step in healing the trauma.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And I think that when you're doing a lot of trauma work, after a traumatic situation, you have to be able to forgive, because it's not easy. Like when I did EMDR, um, it helped me kind of face the memories that I used to run from instead of like reliving that trauma. It really allowed me to reprocess it, to really just kind of see the moments through my own eyes. And it's like the flashbacks and triggers that once kind of controlled me and kept me in that state that I was in. Um, it really allowed me to kind of lose the power that I was under. And with that, doing the EMDR, doing that trauma work, I had to forgive because I couldn't be where I am today. You know what I'm saying? I can't erase the past, but forgiveness changes your relationship with it. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I kind of think about it.
Yeah, and it's very hopeful what you're saying for people that are triggered and think, I'm never going to get past these triggers. How can I do it? And what would you say to that person that might be watching?
I would probably say that you're stronger than you think, you're braver than you believe, and there's nothing in this world that you can't do. I think sometimes we are our own worst enemy, and I think that we have that imposter syndrome sometimes. And when you're in a situation that can be difficult, it's easy to say those things. But I think you have to believe in yourself, and you have to have that intrinsic motivation, and you have to, it has to be grounded in yourself, right? And sometimes that strength is just to say, keep going every single time.
Yeah, because that authentic part of yourself can do it. Even I always
Right.
think I used to when I was coaching women talk about those 2-year-olds that weren't going to let them anything get in their way, right?
Yeah.
They'll say, I can do it. Get out of the way. What happened to us?
Right.
And especially as women being very suppressed and their voices taken away. I mean, we're all being wounded in different ways, but
Yes.
the fact is, it's inside of us
Right.
that if we can get back to that place inside of us that is so strong and pure and it's really our essence, then we can do
Right.
anything. But it's about like we've turned that part off. It's about, turning that back on. It's there waiting to be turned on. But what are we feeding ourselves, right? And you're feeding yourself resilience and you're feeding yourself like the the knowledge that your mother modeling it, right? That knowledge that look, I have this strong woman who's modeled it and she's put that into me. So to go back and tune into that, what she gave you and call that back out of yourself and to let that lead the way for you to get out of this trauma trap that you were in and the pain. So yes, I mean, it's there inside of all of us.
And you have it, you hit it right on the head. And what I heard was bravery, right? What I heard was bravery. And I think that taking care of your mental health and taking care of yourself after whatever situation that might have temporarily set you back, it's not about, I think in some ways it can be about strength, but it's also about being brave enough to ask for help and to seek help and to kind of have that conversation with yourself and say, I would like some support. And sometimes bravery looks like I'm not okay right now. And I think, in my opinion, that's one of the most bravest things you can say. I'm not okay right now. I do need support. What I'm looking for is some therapeutic support. What I'm looking for is some community that can help me move through whatever event that might have kind of set you back temporarily. Bravery.
Right. And so definitely. I mean, you can be strong, but afraid at the same time, right?
Mhm.
And that's the strength in it. You know, when you say, look, I'm afraid, that just shows how strong you are. So it's not these two things that are opposing that we are led to believe.
Exactly, 100%. And I think we need to work together in solidarity to kind of combat that because it's a ripple effect, like I mentioned. It's like sometimes life gets hard. Like you might feel sad, you might be scared, you might be alone, and you might not even know why. And I think that's okay. But I think it makes you human. You know what I'm saying? And recognizing that we deserve to feel safe, we deserve to be heard is also a huge step moving forward to that strength and that bravery.
Definitely we have to take off the mask and be real human beings with feelings. We are human and we're made with feelings. We can't turn them off. I mean, turning them off is turning against ourself.
Exactly. Sometimes we have to have that resilience to break the chains. Like, so I think that's another reason why I named the book that, because sometimes, again, you have to have the resilience to break whatever chains that there are that are preventing you from seeking whatever support that you're looking for.
Yeah, and that's a key thing, seeking support, because men are taught to do everything by themselves. Even women, I'm so independent. I don't need a man. I don't need anybody, but I need people. That's
Yeah.
insane. I mean,
It
unless
is insane. It's so
live
sad.
out in the woods,
It's
unless
so
I'm going to live out in
sad.
the woods, I need
Right.
somebody.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if I ever get lost in the dark, I'm flashing my flashlight if my phone's not dead because I need help. I need support. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't always have to be of that mindset. It does not need to be that way. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't. It really doesn't.
We
So,
all, I mean, we give each other, I mean, we lift each other up. We grow together from
exactly.
this. I've learned from you and you've hopefully learned from me. You know,
Exactly.
it's sharing, right? So, yeah,
100%.
we need each other. And
And it's
yes,
the ripple effect. It's the ripple effect. It has to be because nobody learned how to eat by themselves. You had to be taught how to do that. You had to discover on your own. Nobody taught you how to ride a bike. You had to be taught or you had to learn it by yourself. And I think that these things that we're talking about today, I hope can serve as a ripple effect to some people. And again, I'm going to acknowledge that not everybody is there in their journey. And I think that's okay. But I think if it allows people to just kind of sit with their emotions and say, oh, this sounds familiar, then that's the first step.
definitely. Yes. And this will ripple out everywhere because everything we do affects everyone else. So it
Exactly.
definitely will. So let me ask you this because I see that we're coming to the end of our time. But if your younger self could read this book, what message do you think he would hold on to the most?
It's a good question. If my younger self could read this book, huh, huh. I feel like if my younger self could read this book, I feel like the younger Eugene would probably cling to the truth that I'm not what's happened to me. And I would see strength as like a tiger and that it doesn't always roar. Sometimes like it whispers to keep going, and it I think that my younger self would finally believe that support, love, and whatever is there that's meant to kind of pour into you, it doesn't have to hurt. I think that, again, I'm going to mention that you're not what happened to you. I would definitely probably echo that to myself because that's something that I talk about a lot in my book. You're not what happened to you, but it's about what you do with it afterwards that matters.
Right. And how do you let go of that? How do you believe that you're not what happened to you?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I think, in my opinion, you never let go and you allow those scars to, you
Mm.
look at them, you acknowledge them, and you allow those scars to be your guiding force as you move forward in your life and whatever you're doing and whatever mission you feel like you have. You acknowledge what you've been through and use that as an opportunity to grow.
Yeah, stepping stone. I love that.
Yeah,
Definitely. So, let
yeah,
tell us where you can get your book and give us your final words. Like you're living with the uncaged heart. You are the uncaged leader, right? And
yeah.
and give us those words, your final words of inspiration and where we can find this amazing book.
Yeah. So my final words of inspiration are to keep going when things are hard because the other side is beautiful once you cross it. You can find my book on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, on my website, Eugene Z Bertrand, .com, and really anywhere. Thank you so much.
And where can people connect with you?
LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. So feel free to send me a connection request and I'm there.
Yeah, that's where we met. And everyone, if you're watching this, please subscribe to my channel. And because we're going to have great conversations and really we're going to take back our power. We have it you can borrow it from me and Eugene. We're,
Take
we're
it.
we're believing in you.
Take it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's contagious. It's that ripple effect, you know. Just
right.
keep going. That's the message. Keep going. Yeah,
Keep going. You might not think it's in you, but we see it in you.
exactly. 100%.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I'm very inspired and I'm wide awake now. I was feeling sleepy before this, but I'm
We're
very
both
awake.
feeling so tired, and I feel great. I can go for 50 laps of a run. Just kidding. I probably only do one. Just one. I feel
Just
great.
one's good. All
Just one.
right. Well, thank you so much, Eugene, and we'll be in touch again. You'll have to come back on again and tell us, where you've grown in the next few years.
I'd love to. Oh my gosh. I would absolutely love to. It's been such a great opportunity to talk with you. And again, I love the work that you're doing. And I'm really, really hopeful that people are able to continue learning and continue to be inspired by Uncaged Leaders and all the great work that you have going on.
Well, thank you. We're doing it together, everybody.
We are.
All right. Then we'll see you next week. And thanks so much for watching, everybody. Bye.
Bye now.